approximately 0% of people watching right now know that I started making garments back in 2017.
When I was a wee lad, aka a couple of years ago, my design style aesthetic was heavily inspired by the retro look and pinup fashion. I even went to vintage events and wanted to get a Dodge Wayfarer. Since then, it's changed to an all-black gothic type of look, but let's talk about that later.
Back then I had absolutely no clue how to make any type of garment, and I ended up pattern drafting and making this dress. So this is actually the first dress that I ever made. It has a halter neck tie, and it ties in the back, and then it goes down into this sweetheart neckline, and then it goes down into the bust and into the waist. The waist is literally just a rectangular piece of fabric that I wrapped around, and then the bottom is box pleated, and it just goes to right below my knees.
And upon a closer look,
it was
horrific.
Now let's take a look into what makes this dress so terrifying to seamstresses worldwide. Number 1, the ill-fitting bodice. The bodice is too flat and doesn't allow space to move around. This is connected to the waist piece that is too long and bunches at the hip area. Number 2, the collar doesn't have interfacing and flops around, making it look flimsy and cheap. The proportions are also not on par, leaving too small of a collar compared to the rest of the dress. And finally, number 3, the stitching on the zipper makes me want to die from just looking at it. It has this ominous way about it that grosses sewers out across the world. That has been the top 3 things wrong with the first dress I made. If you have experienced any of these things, rest assured that you will continue to improve through each garment you make. Also, according to YouTube statistics, only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe. It's free and you can always change your mind.
So in this video, I'm going to be reconstructing, redesigning, and re-pattern drafting this dress with the same fabric. I'm not going to be tearing apart my first ever garment, but hopefully this goes over smoothly. Let's get started.
So my plan for this dress is to combine the top of a slip dress with the bottom of a petticoat. Then I could add elements of my first dress in. After a few minutes on Illustrator, I was able to come up with this CAD. Now the first step in this project is to get rid of your anti-dogs. They will not only prohibit your future success, but they will persuade you to cheat on your taxes. Let me introduce you. This is Asia. She is known for her death stare and ruthless behavior. The other one is Gracie, and she won't really bother you, but she might spread out on your project. Oh yeah, there's also this other weird guy, but we'll talk about him later. Now I normally don't show my patterns, but here they are. If you need help deciphering them, I suggest putting this video in a reverse Google search and proceed to download that onto a flash drive. You should then boil it at exactly 1000 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 hours straight. You will then come to the realization that you can simply pin muslin to yourself and create a basic bodice pattern, or you can just take my word for it. After your anti-dog problem has been vanquished, make sure to grab a couple of potatoes to weigh your fabric down. You know, I guess you could use any fruit or vegetable, but all of a sudden, I thought these were the most spectacular to weigh fabric down. After coming up with this sentence, I was questioning yamming this many potato puns in one sentence, but I hashed it out with myself, and overall found potato puns appealing. I just realized I've been talking a lot so far in this video, so I'll just let you guys listen to the music. I mean, I could keep talking just to take up space in the video, but that would be loquacious of me. I think I used that word correctly. Let me know if I did, because I would be ashamed if I used a word incorrectly in a video. Oh no. The clip is over. Anyway, now you will utilize your hand as a wand and magically fuse all the top bodice pieces on. I'm just kidding. Use your ability of pure willpower to sew each piece in place. I found it particularly helpful to always keep an anti-dog by my side, but if you don't have one, you could always keep an anti-cat by your side. And now it's time to sew the bodice front, back, and sides together. I originally wanted to include more than just the sewing in this part, but the desk in this room doesn't accommodate for such, so I put another clip to the side. Make sure to leave the back open so the zipper can be sewn in, and since this was a pretty low neckline in the back, I was able to get away with an 18-inch zipper. So far, the bodice should be looking like this. And now, onto the straps. I first started by getting out my handy dandy potato skin and cutting 2-inch wide straps. If you're questioning the length, just cut very long straps and you can adjust the size later. I then proceeded to sew them, leaving one end open so I could turn it inside out. I then spent a good 3 hours flipping every strap inside out and top stitched it down. If you need help getting through this part of the project, I suggest clipping your nails and getting something hard to bite down on, because this is sheer willpower. You will then sandwich them in between your face fabric and lining fabric. Speaking about sandwiches, I really wanted to make a cheesy pun here, but I thought people might grill me for it. After all this is done, turn your bodice inside out, and you got yourself a halfway finished dress. Before I got into the skirt, I wanted to take a break, and afterward, I ended up coming back to this. So I let the anti-dog win for this one and got straight into my skirt. I first started by cutting all my panels out and realizing I didn't have enough fabric. So I packed up my potatoes and prepared to go to the store.
I'll be right back. Thankfully they had it in stock. Now, back to cutting.
When I got back, I washed the fabric and went straight to cutting once more. Remember, this dress is very similar to a petticoat, so you'll want to multiply your waist measurement exponentially through each tier. Now comes the suffering. In preparing to gather, make sure to use your longest stitch length to accommodate for a lot of gathers. Also, watch this next clip very closely, because you will spend the next 5 to 6 hours doing this. Make sure to evenly gather the fabric through the entire panel. My bottom panel ended up being close to 9 yards, so make sure to go slow as to not break the thread midway through your gather. And just like that, 7 or 8 hours later, and your skirt should be looking like this. I would normally suggest sewing the hem before gathering, but it was easier to hem everything after. Also, remember, even if I don't say it, be sure to serge and top stitch where necessary. When attaching the bodice, it's essentially the same as sewing the panels onto each other. The most important thing is to keep the gathers even so the dress doesn't look lopsided. Last but not least, make sure to sew the zipper in correctly. I ended up hand sewing the lining in place because I think it looks better that way, but you could also do this by machine.